Dagda agus tar fáilte roh is mis an scéala beag. Hello, and you're very welcome. I'm a little storyteller. Coming to you from another fantastic session in our Live at Fives with the Irish Pagan School. And we had a nice breakdown of like just a check-in on how people's lives are going, which is a really, really great experience. Like, wasn't any defined topics. We weren't all kind of coming at a particular thing, and people got to just express who and where they are at the moment and the acknowledgement, which I'm very, very grateful for. So we do have a quick question from the community, which Alan will present to us, and it might be best to, provide a bit of response on the fly as we go and see how it reviews. Alan, what was your question?
What would be the best way to get a stalking deity to reveal exactly who they are when you're not incredibly familiar with every single Irish deity?
Okay, so that's a really, really good question. And so my understanding is that Alan is currently being stalked by a deity, but has not got the tools to recognize that deity at the moment. As someone who was also stalked by a deity, I figured I might be the best person to answer this question. Um, it can be very tricky. What we're dealing with is energies and entities outside of ourselves that have a very different perception on reality, a very different perception on time, and a very different perception, in some cases, on personal space. I too, like Alan, had a sensation, had a feeling that there was some presence hovering around me, some kind of I wouldn't have said stalked. um, but yeah, I can see how that energy might come across. The challenge for me was having the word to put on the feeling. And it was only through the actions of, funny enough, a Morrigan priest that I first heard the name Dagda, which allowed me to then view this deity that had been stalking me. Um, I think the things I would always say when dealing with that kind of circumstance is it's got to start internally. It's got to start with yourself. The only way that we know the voice of or recognize a voice that differs from our own is if we're very comfortable with our own voice. There may be times where other aspects of our person, other aspects of our ego or our persona or our anima, or of our like our psychological landscape is trying to communicate with us. And so only going through that work first can we begin to recognize what our own voice sounds like, that we can then have the recognition that no, this is definitely outside me, this is definitely something other. Once that step is done, either through meditation or Laura's journey work practice or writing and kind of recording or dream work, whatever your kind of format is, it's got to start with being clear on where you were. And then once you have that very clear impression that there is something other, it's a matter of trusting your instincts is what I would say is the next step. Too many times people feel a presence around and they're like, yay, open the doors, come on in, and like, just experience all of my everything. And that can be horrific. It could be good, but it could also be horrific. Even if like the entity, energy, or deity does have your best interest in place, their understanding of you and how you function and fit may not be in line with what you actually need. So the approach, you got to trust your instincts. Start with your own feelings, having been aware of your own voice. What kind of energy is being presented from this entity, deity, or whatever? Like, what kind of positions, what kind of time frames. It's about collecting data, right? Because that's the next point. You collect as much data as possible to characterize what you're experiencing from this deity who is stalking you. At that point, once you have a collection of data, are they around when it's daytime? Are they around when it's nighttime? Are they around when it's full moons, when it's dark moons? Are they around when, you're in a particular emotional state, mental state? Do you feel cuddled by them? Do you feel threatened by them? You need to be able to kind of capture that information, because that's the character, the facets of what that deity is. And at that point, you'll be able to then contact your resources, go to the lore, go to the stories, go to your community in many cases, try and see what others may be able to give you perception on. This part is a tricky part. When you're, hi, I'm having this experience about this dark goddess in my life. If you haven't fully broken down your own stuff and fully recognized what this deity is presenting to you, then you will end up with a whole list of everyone in the community just spouting off dark goddess stuff at you, and it can be very hard to pull through that to get down to what it is or what it isn't. So start with your trusted and known resources. Start with people that you're very comfortable engaging with and sharing with. Because there is that relationship involved. Like, there are experts in very different areas. If I was, wrangling with a she, I would talk to Dagda, but I may also talk to Laura because she's an expert in that area. If I was dealing with, an Egyptian god or goddess, I would look for a native source or a trustworthy source in that pantheon, to be able to then explore that understanding. And once you kind of have more data, then it's a matter of taking. It's almost like, I don't know if you ever had the game Alan Guess Who. It was a child's board game where you'd put in all of these various faces and you'd go back and forward guessing, do they have glasses? No, I'll put these people down. Do they have a mustache? No, I'll put these people down. And you'd have to winnow out the information. And so once you have the content, you then can reapproach the deity and begin to try and hold the pieces up. Hold the, is it this? Is it that? And what I have experienced myself and what I know other people have experienced is, once you have enough information, invariably it will just click. If the deity is stalking you, the deity or divinity or entity is in some way trying to get your attention over something. So the moment you have the right piece of the puzzle that will allow you to turn the lens and to focus in, they will just step forward into that because there's an element of them needing to be perceived by you. So there's a lot to be done. As ever, start with yourself, look after your own voice, look after your own protection, be safe within yourself, and then, gather as much information as possible and contact your sources from there. So I do hope that answers your question, Alan. And I do hope it provides enough of a resource for other people who may be experiencing deity stalking in their own lives. But it's got to start with ourselves. It's got to start with who and where we are, moving forward from there. The other things is to be aware of is that I've seen it a couple of times where people just, as I said, that whole open door policy of just come in, move in, and whatever, and then they end up with no boundaries, no contracts, no agreements, no arrangements, and that can lead to a very unhealthy relationship with deity in some ways, or with communities or certain communities. So I would always say you got to start with you, because you are the only you that will ever be you, and no one can be you as much as you are in this existence. And if you're here now, then you are what's needed to be here now. So trust in yourself. As we always say in all of the Irish Pagan School groups, do the fucking work, and then be careful and be safe. So I do hope that answers your question. It's been very, very fascinating sharing that. And there's a lot more content that has been like flying up in our chat resources, which will be available after these sessions in the Irish Pagan School groups. So what I will say is, Gaurav Mahagas, thank you very much. I do appreciate you being here with us. Agus Slán. Goodbye for now.